Hello, I'm Ashley Thomas and welcome to my channel. If you're new here and want to follow just a geek from Wales who loves to talk about film, TV and everything geeky, then why not hit that subscribe button? It will help me out a lot. Okay, here is my review of Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster. He also directed Hereditary, and here we've got a group of friends who travel to Sweden to attend this festival that happens every 90 years, but they end up finding themselves within the clutches of this pagan cult. And that's where the sort of horror begins, you could say. So for me, basically, this overall experience of Midsommar, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was a very, very unnerving and disturbing experience. It wasn't really frightening or scary, but it was very unnerving and very disturbing. There are some really disturbing moments within this movie which I really, really dug. The overall look of this movie is just beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love the cinematography. I love the way this film was shot. The colours within the movie, the use of colours and lighting, it sort of just bleeds colour, and it makes you really sort of, it immerses you into this world, into this story, into this location, which is Sweden, where they don't actually experience for so many weeks. They don't experience night. It's they call it the midnight sun. I found that all very fascinating, but that all sort of comes through with the way in which the film was shot, the way it looks, the way it's presented. It was gorgeous, and it really helps immerses you into the story. It's a very visceral experience, you know, full of visceral emotions and imagery, stunning cinematography. And what I really liked about the film as well is the fact that you've got a lot of scenes with these images within the scenes, and there's images within images. Like almost every scene or shot in this movie has multiple messages and stories going on within it. You could sort of really dissect this movie so much. Like, there's so much going on within a moment or within a scene, and I love that. I just love it when directors really sort of just, you know, put imagery into imagery, and you're there and you're sort of dissecting little bits and pieces of what's going on and how a scene plays out. When it comes to craft, the way in which this film was sort of put together and filmed and how it played out, Ari Aster did a very, very good job. Like, he is an artist, and when it comes to these movies, when it comes to the horror genre, he's really, really good at it. Because for the first time in a very, very long time, I was actually disturbed by moments within this film, and it's been a long time since that's happened. Actually, when I was thinking back on it, the last time that happened to me was when I cannot remember how young I was. I was very, very young, actually, way too young to be watching the film that I was watching, and that was Silence of the Lambs. And I remember being quite disturbed during moments of that movie, and I don't think a movie ever affected me like that ever since, really, the way in which Silence of the Lambs did. And there were one or two moments within this movie that made me feel like that again, and I thought that was a really big achievement, because it takes a lot now, especially when you sort of really study films and you look into films so much, you sort of become a little bit numb to the shock and horror of these movies. Like, you still appreciate the way in which they are made, but for a film to really still truly disturb you, even though you have all that knowledge, I think for me that's an achievement, and Ari Aster did that with Midsommar. There were scenes in this movie that it unsettled me. It was an unsettling experience, and they disturbed me. And like I said, overall it was an unnerving experience, and I think Ari Aster did a really good job at achieving that. When it comes to performances were really good all around. The highlight for me was Florence Pugh as the lead character, Danny. I thought she was incredibly good within this movie. She really helped convey what her character was going through. You know, the performance felt very real. You know, when it comes to what her character was dealing with recent tragedy and loss, and what she was going through with her partner, and all of those emotions she conveyed very, very well through her performance. She felt very real, very believable, and she helped sell the horror, really, and what these characters were going through. And same goes for everyone else within this movie, but for me, Florence Pugh was the highlight when it comes to it. She really helps sort of sell, like I said, the horror, and what, you know, and helps really sort of drive along the story, really, because this film can become quite slow, and I think for some people it may be a little bit too slow. For me, when it comes to pacing, I actually, it just about worked. Like, I think the second act was just a little bit heavy and could have been tightened just a tiny bit. And I think for me, probably the second act was probably where I was feeling a little bit mixed about the movie and where the movie may have been potentially going. I loved the first act. I thought the third act was great and it paid off. I thought I was very satisfied during the third act and how it sort of concluded. But that second act for me was a little bit mixed, a little bit heavy, could have been tightened. For me, like, the pacing was okay. And as the film goes along, as the story sort of goes along, the more you sort of get dragged down the rabbit hole and how sort of things get really odd and weird and wacky. And, you know, sometimes that could throw you out of the movie, but they do a really good job at sort of really keeping you immersed into this world, as odd as it really gets. And as the story goes along, it really does go. It gets really weird, and it's sort of pulling you down. Ari Aster does a really good job of dragging you down the rabbit hole and keeping your attention, I feel. And even though at times things don't quite seem real, like you start to sort of question the reality of things, and if things are actually real and happening at the same time, they still retain that sense of reality that these characters are going through this, but at the same time then you also find yourself questioning it, and I really like that. I also love the score within this movie. It's a beautiful score done by Haxan Cloak. His real name is Acrylic, or Bobby Acrylic, I believe. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but he creates a really nice score within this movie that really accompanies the movie very well. They don't rely on the music to really sell the horror or anything like that. The music is utilised in moments when it should be utilised, and as a result has a bigger impact. Like, I thought the way the music was used in this movie was done very well, like it should be in most horror movies. Because my problem with horror movies today is they rely too much on music, whereas the music in this is used to serve the story and give moments impact when it needs, and at the right times, and just utilises the score when it should. And I just thought the score was, again, it was beautiful, a beautiful score, and it does really help immerse you into this world and what the characters are going through. And yeah, I just really dug it. So apart from some really sort of pacing issues really through the second act and the humour for me didn't quite work. Now, I say humour, I'm a bit confused by this, or I was a little bit like, for me, there are moments within this movie I felt like there was humour injected into it, dark humour, and there were moments in which the audience laughed. So it wasn't just me, but I did wonder, was it done intentionally? Was the humour sort of injected within moments of this movie on purpose, or did it just happen to play out in a funny sort of way that was sort of like, well, because I've got a twisted sense of humour anyway, and there were moments in which I laughed, and I was thinking to myself, did they actually intend us? Did they intend on us to laugh at that moment, or did it just happen to be funny because of the way it played out? So for me, because it sort of made me laugh, but in a sort of like this sort of disturbing and sort of confusing way, because it was like, that is actually quite funny, but it didn't fit into the overall movie and into the overall story. So as a result, for me, the humour was a little bit odd, and sort of at times I thought did throw me out a little bit, because it just didn't quite work. So I'm really not sure if the humour that I feel is in the movie was intended. If it was, then it didn't work. And if it wasn't, then, well, there are moments which, depending on what your sense of humour is like, yeah, you may have a chuckle or two out of this as well. So yeah, Midsommar, a disturbing, mesmerising, hypnotic, unnerving experience. I enjoyed it. I was a little bit conflicted during the second act. But I thought mainly the first act and the third act was just great. But it is essentially a breakdown between a relationship, and I thought that was really done very well, to a point it just felt very real. It was done very well, and just sort of that breakdown throughout the story, and I just liked how that theme was used within this sort of setting, within this sort of concept. I love how Ari Aster sort of really focuses in on sort of the characters, the human emotions, because that really does help sell the horror as well during moments. Like I said, it's not really frightening, it's just very disturbing and unnerving when you see it, and it's done very, very well, and it just feels so real and visceral, and I like that. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Midsommar, and I will be giving Midsommar an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching, I really do appreciate it. What did you guys think of Midsommar? Please let me know below. Was there anything you agreed with or disagreed with me? Please let me know below, and let's get a discussion going, and thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. For those of you that are new here and would just like to follow a geek from Wales who loves to ramble on about film, TV and everything geeky, then why not hit that subscribe button?